Right then, here we go on another mountain bike ride, exploring the beautiful area around Drumnadrochit. As usual, the ride starts at the roundabout near the Scottmead Co-op. This particular route follows the first part of the Affric Kintail Way, firstly through Craigmonie Woods and then following Glen Urquhart to the little hamlet of Corrimony. I first noticed this little loch up in the mountains while studying the map and planning a previous ride to Corrimony Cairn. I'd noticed on the map that as the route neared the cairn, it became the Highland Trail 550. I could see that the trail passed through the tiny hamlet of Corrimony and up into the mountains, passing Loch Stac. I don't know why, but ever since seeing that loch on the map I've wanted to see it for myself, partly because I think it would be a great place to wild camp at some point in the future. The trail's mainly forestry track and not very technical. It's however blessed with some stunning views all along the way. Hiya. The route passes another little loch and then passes through the tiny and tranquil hamlet of Shenval. As you leave the hamlet, you'll pass the tiniest church ever. It's at this point that the route becomes the Highland Trail 550 and passes right by Corrimony Cairn. The cairn is a Bronze Age burial site surrounded by 11 standing stones. The site's piled high with pieces of broken quartz, and originally there was a capstone on top of the mound, but this was moved in the early 1800s. As I followed the trail through Corrimony, I couldn't figure out the route, so it was a good time to consult the map on my phone. Once back on track, I made my way through Corrimony Nature Reserve. From what I remember of the map, the loch is past those wind turbines and to the left. I can see the trail going up. This is actually the Highland Trail 550, famous long distance gravel race. I soon reached Loch Comnard, and as I continued I could see Corrimony Wind Farm in the distance. I knew that the loch I was chasing was after the wind turbines, so I still had a way to go. As I rode along, I couldn't help but think about the Highland Trail 550 and how tough this off-road self-supported race must be. It's held once a year and is one of the most challenging self-supported off-road individual time trials in the world. This part of the trail was wide and easy, as it's used to access the wind farm, but as I passed the final turning to the wind farm, the track became much rougher and quite rocky in parts. It was at this point that I started to notice how much battery I had used. Unfortunately, battery range and performance is affected by temperature, and as the day was pretty cold, it had drained the batteries a bit more than I had expected. The track continued to climb, and towards the top I could see the two tiny lochans before Loch Stac. From what I remembered on the map, Loch Stac was just beyond these lochans, but what was concerning me was the last bit of the trail was very rocky and steep. Even though I was nearly there, I was pretty worried about this last part draining my batteries too much. It was at this point I decided to stop and take a break and get something to eat. I could then decide whether to press on or turn back. The view from my resting place was stunning. It was a great feeling to be up there on the mountain. I just couldn't stop looking at it all. I couldn't help but think how lucky I was to be able to explore such a beautiful place. Once I'd eaten, I decided to turn back and ride back down the mountain. I kept wondering, should I have continued that last part of the route to Loch Stac? Feeling frustrated, I cursed the cold weather for killing my battery's range. As I rode back, I consoled myself with the promise that I would be returning very soon to complete this ride all the way to Loch Stac. The ride back was just as scenic and still enjoyable, as a route always looks different when you change direction. Once back home, I checked my batteries again. I could see that I was on my last bar and I still had a range of 5 miles left. I had to accept defeat, as the range readout is always a bit iffy. 5 miles on the flat isn't the same as 1 mile up a steep rocky path, so maybe I did make the right decision. Or did I? Well, it's a good job I'm going back soon then, isn't it?